pinchy things and the little picky things. There. Pinchy, picky, pulley.
Tim Conway made laughter look effortless. With a simple glance, a clumsy stumble, or a perfectly timed pause, he could bring an entire room to tears. To millions, he was pure joy, the man who made the Carol Burnett Show unforgettable. But behind that easy laughter was someone far more complex. A man who kept parts of himself hidden. A man who faced struggles the public rarely saw. And when he passed away in 2019, those hidden pieces began to surface, revealing a story filled with quiet doubts, professional frustrations, and deeply personal conflict. This is the real story of Tim Conway. Tim Conway was born Thomas Daniel Conway on December 15, 1933, in Willoughby, Ohio. His childhood wasn't glamorous. His family struggled financially during the Great Depression, moving frequently just to get by. Stability was rare, and success seemed far away. But even as a child, Conway had something special. He didn't discover comedy through ambition, it found him by accident. As a student with undiagnosed dyslexia, he often misread words while reading aloud in class. One day, he accidentally turned a serious book title into something unintentionally funny. The class burst into laughter. That moment changed everything. For the first time, he realized he could make people laugh. Ironically, comedy wasn't his dream. He wanted to be a jockey, even though he was afraid of horses. Life had other plans. After high school, he studied speech and dramatics at Bowling Green State University, then served in the U.S. Army. Even there, his comedic instincts followed him. In one famous incident, he fell asleep on guard duty and improvised a fake weapon out of a neon tube when confronted. It didn't end well, he was punished, but it showed something important: Conway could think fast, even under pressure. After the Army, he returned to Cleveland and landed a job in television. Or rather, he talked his way into one. He claimed to be a director. He wasn't. The inexperience showed quickly. Shows ran over time, segments fell apart, and to fill gaps, Conway began playing multiple characters himself. A matador, a musician, an antique dealer, he made it work through sheer improvisation. Eventually, he was fired. But that failure pushed him toward Hollywood. His big break came when an actress spotted his work and helped him land an audition. Soon after, he appeared regularly on a national television show and changed his name from Tom to Tim. Then came McHale's Navy. From 1962 to 1966, Conway played the naive ensign Charles Parker. It made him recognizable. It gave him a foothold in Hollywood. But it didn't make him a star. That came later. After a string of ups and downs, including a notorious TV failure that was cancelled after just one episode, Conway found his true home on the Carol Burnett Show. At first, he was just a guest. But by the mid-1970s, he became a regular, and that's when magic happened. On screen, Conway was unstoppable. He didn't just tell jokes, he created chaos. His improvisations were legendary. He would stick to the script during rehearsals, then completely change things during the final taping. And the result? Cast members breaking down in laughter. Audiences loved it. Watching professionals lose control became part of the appeal. Conway's ability to make even the most composed performers crack became his signature. But behind the scenes, not everyone was laughing. Writers grew frustrated. Carefully crafted scripts were being derailed. Some felt his improvisation cheapened the work. Others believed it overshadowed his true talent as an actor. Because here's the truth, Conway wasn't just funny, he was skilled. But his reputation became tied to those chaotic moments instead of his range. And that reputation followed him. Despite his immense popularity, Hollywood never quite figured out what to do with him. He starred in multiple shows: Rango, The Tim Conway Show, Ace Crawford, Private Eye, but they all failed. One after another. His own joke said it best: his shows lasted just long enough to boil an egg. His license plate even read 13 weeks, a nod to how quickly his projects were cancelled. It was a strange contradiction. Everyone agreed he was hilarious. But no one could turn that into long-term success. Off-screen, Conway was different from what people expected. He wasn't loud. He wasn't outgoing. He wasn't constantly joking. He was private. So private, in fact, that even people who worked with him for years felt they never fully knew him. And that distance became more noticeable as time went on. His personal life carried its own challenges. He married his first wife in 1961, and together they had 6 children. For 17 years, they built a life filled with family and responsibility. But in 1978, the marriage ended quietly. No public drama. No explanations. Years later, he remarried. This time to someone who understood his world, someone who had already worked closely within the same environment. It seemed like a fresh start. But behind that stability, something else was happening. His health was declining. Conway was diagnosed with normal pressure hydrocephalus, a condition that affects the brain due to fluid buildup. At first, the symptoms were subtle. Difficulty walking. Memory issues. Changes in behavior. Things that could easily be dismissed. But over time, they became impossible to ignore. What made it even more difficult was that Conway kept it private. He didn't want sympathy. He didn't want to be seen as weak. He just wanted to keep working. And he did. Even as his condition worsened, he continued performing, doing voice work, and appearing on television. But by 2018, the situation had reached a breaking point. His family became divided over how to care for him. One side believed he needed the highest level of medical attention possible. The other believed different arrangements were sufficient. The disagreement turned into a legal battle. Court filings described Conway as nearly unresponsive, unable to care for himself. It was a heartbreaking image, far removed from the man who once made millions laugh. The fight dragged on for over a year. Accusations were made. Emotions ran high. And in the end, a decision was reached, a conservatorship was established, placing control of his care and decisions in one person's hands. It was a resolution, but not a peaceful one. Just weeks later, on May 14, 2019, Tim Conway passed away at the age of 85. He died from complications related to his condition. At his burial, his gravestone carried a simple message: beloved husband, father, and papa. And one final line that captured his spirit. It's hard to be sad when you're laughing. But even in death, there were questions. Not everyone expected was present at his funeral. Some absences had clear explanations: age, distance, or prior passing. But others raised eyebrows. Because behind the laughter, there had always been tension. Not every co-star enjoyed Conway's improvisational style. Some found it disruptive. Some found it disrespectful. There were moments where guest stars felt blindsided, caught off guard by unexpected changes during live performances. Writers, in particular, struggled with it. They spent hours crafting scripts, only to see them altered in seconds. Even fellow cast members occasionally reached their limits. There were rare moments, small, subtle, where frustration slipped through on screen. A line delivered with a bit more edge. A reaction that wasn't entirely scripted. These weren't accidents. They were glimpses of the pressure behind the comedy. Critics also weighed in. Some argued that breaking character signaled the audience when to laugh instead of letting the material stand on its own. To them, it wasn't genius, it was a shortcut. But audiences disagreed. They loved it. And that's what made Conway so unique. He didn't follow the rules of comedy. He rewrote them. In the end, Tim Conway's life wasn't just about laughter. It was about contradiction. A man who made people feel joy, while quietly carrying his own struggles. A performer who thrived in chaos, but lived a private, controlled life. A legend who was loved by millions, yet not fully understood by those closest to him. His story reminds us of something simple, but powerful. The people who make us laugh the most often carry stories we never see. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell notification so you never miss a video from Prestige Buzz. Because sometimes, the real story is the one no one talks about.